Hi, so there are several different reasons why snowboarding is better than skiing. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is actually the gear. And so ski gear is much different than snowboard gear, and the first big difference starts with the boots. So ski boots are made out of hard plastic, and they have a very large heel on the end that forces your foot to be up and also your knees to be in a bending position. And there's no mobility of the ankles, which can be extremely uncomfortable when you're on the mountain. And on the contrast side of things, snowboard boots are made out of a fabric material that is mesh, and it's easy and flexible, and your ankles can actually move around in it, and it's all laced up to your leg and to the shape of your leg. Whereas with the snowboard boot, everything is always clipped in, clamped down, and very immobile and hard to do anything that way. Well, so as you can see that there's already a big difference in comfortability. And then due to the way that ski boots operate, it actually forces your legs into a constant bending knee position. And so to just kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about, I'm just going to quickly share my screen with you all. So hold on just one second. All right, so the first picture that I'm going to share is actually of my sister and me, and I have personally both done skiing and snowboarding. And as you can see, my sister's knee is bent in this awkward position. And no matter what she does, her knee will always be bent into that awkward position. Whereas me, on the other hand, we go and take a look at this picture. I can stand perfectly straight and in a much more comfortable position than my sister, who usually skis. And you can see that my knees aren't being forced to bend in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. And now the second point that I'm going to go ahead and make on why snowboarding is better than skiing in regards to gear there actually is a lot to do with safety here. So snowboarding, so some people will argue that because snowboarding generally has more injury than skiing, then that makes it better and safer. But that's not necessarily true. A recent study by skis.com showed that as more people do get injured on a snowboard, however, people who get injured on skis usually get injured in a more severe way. This is demonstrated once again by how I explained how the boots work with the skis, because due to your knee being bent in that uncomfortable position, it actually can weaken those joints and those muscles there, which can cause you to tear your ACL or to get other knee injuries that can be very severe and can actually prevent you from skiing altogether. However, when it comes to snowboarding, most of the injuries that are created from there are from people who do tricks and other such sort of extravagant adventures. And those people are generally the people who get injured. And if you're somebody who's not planning on trying to learn extravagant tricks, then injury is not something that you're really going to have to be worried about. Now, so there's two main reasons on why snowboarding is already better than skiing, but it even gets better from here. So gear is another huge important factor, and I've already mentioned a few things like safety, comfortability, but skis pop off all the time on the mountain. So if you are somebody who does like to do tricks and you mess up on a trick, your ski could pop off and be 10 feet, 20 feet away from you up at the top of the mountain, and you have to go and hike up and find it. And depending on how much powder there is, you might not even be able to find your ski at all. In fact, due to how skis are designed, where they are designed to pop off relatively easily, if you are just sitting on the lift, sometimes even just swaying your legs gently back and forth can cause the ski to pop off and land in the snow. And this can completely derail your trip on the mountain, because if you're on a lift that takes about 20 minutes to get to the top, you'd have to go hunt down a ski, and you might not even be able to find it depending on how large the park is. And so that can be also something that can be really inconvenient. Whereas with a snowboard, and I will go ahead and share my screen one more time. As you can see in this picture, the snowboard is strapped onto my feet. It's not going to fall off, and it's not going to go anywhere if I mess up doing something. These two latches right here clip down onto the boot, and the snowboard is not going to go anywhere on the mountain at all. And there's a lot of benefits to snowboarding. Like I mentioned earlier, with how the ski boots can weaken down your knees, especially, and cause injury. More old people who are skiers are switching to snowboarding because of how dangerous skiing can be. And more people are actually starting their children off on snowboards versus skiing because of the benefits that there are of, snowboarding versus skiing. And then one of the other things that makes snowboarding better is in fresh and completely deep powder. Snowboard is better because of surface area. So skis, when you are in powder, you will have to generally try and keep your tips up. But sometimes that doesn't always happen, and you could be gliding under several feet of powder, maybe even up to your knees on skis as you go, which can, make your gear wet and less resilient, and then you have to go and get it to dry. But on a snowboard, all you have to do, because it has more surface area, is lean backward and point your tip up, and you will generally stay on top of the snow versus underneath it, which can really, really change the fun and dynamics of snowboarding versus skiing. And so then, on a final point, because of surface area of the snowboard, it actually has another benefit to something that some people don't always do. So towards the end of the season, there's usually something called pond skimming that some resorts do. And it's where, as the snow melts, it creates a giant puddle at the bottom of the mountain. And as you go down the mountain, you can go and try to skim across the pond if you get enough speed. If you're somebody who's on skis, you have to think about controlling not just one thing underneath you, but you have to focus on controlling two things that could do splits or that could get caught, and you have to think about 4 different surface areas. Whereas with a snowboard, you don't have to think about that. And as you go down on a snowboard and gain the speed, it's actually easier to stay up and cross over completely safely and without falling into the ice cold water. And so when you're thinking about going, and trying out a winter sport this season, just remember all the points about snowboarding, and then go ahead and rent a snowboard, rent some gear, get some lessons, and then just have some fun.